Hello folks, and welcome to another apple tasting video. This time we're in Nigel's. We're inside rather than under the carport because it's only 4 degrees outside. A bit chilly, and we can't think properly in those temperatures.
No, and also if you've got the apples too cold, they don't taste quite the same. They taste like ice cream.
Right, you carry on, Nigel. I've just got to check because I'm just a bit concerned that if you look on there, I don't know whether it's recording.
Oh, that's odd. I'm just going to stand up and have a
Yes,
look.
it's saying it's recording. What's it say?
Controlling with smartphone.
Oh, right.
Oh, that's
Sorry, folks.
false alarm. False alarm.
Yeah, I've not recognised that message before. Okay, that's it. We are recording. Okay then, Nigel. Tell us a little bit about what we got going on here.
Well, we've got another 12 apples to have a look at. Most of them are late winter keeping apples. There are one or two jokers just for interest. We've got some cookers that have probably gone fairly sweet by now. One or two more from America, and one or two that we found in the hedgerows, one of which might be quite useful. So, shall we make a start?
Okay then, shall I pass this one over to you?
Now this first one is an American one. It's called Eden Crab, and it was bred by Albert Etter in California.
Thank you.
He's the guy that bred the red-fleshed apples, but this one is an ordinary one. It's slightly greenish. If I hold it to the camera, you'll see it's slightly greenish colour inside.
Now this is a bit on the sour side.
It's a strong flavour, isn't it? But yeah, you're right, it is a bit sour. Possibly it's a little early to eat that. As we know, that when you keep an apple, the acidity goes down and it generally gets sweeter. And quite a few of the late winter apples that ripen November or later, it's a good idea to keep them for a while so that they're less tart.
Quick question, Nigel. One or two of the viewers the other day, when we were using the dehydrator, were asking about how the different apples tasted, dehydrated. Would something like this taste better dry?
It tends to. When you dry an apple, if it's slightly bitter to start with, that decreases. So it doesn't taste as bitter when you've dried it. If it's acidic or tart to start with, it doesn't taste as tart when you dry it. It often tastes quite refreshing, a bit like sherbet. So the differences between the apple tastes are smaller when you've dried them than when they're fresh.
Right.
Quite a lot smaller.
I mean, possibly next year we could do a test with dried apples.
We could try drying, say, a tray of Bramleys and a tray of something else and comparing the flavours.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be worth doing.
Yeah.
And I find that when you dry apples, the bags of them that people like the best are those that have got quite a few different sorts, so that you get lots of different flavours, even when dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I must admit, the Braeburn have been really tasty.
Yeah, they are very good. The other thing that I've noticed with drying fruit is that if you dry apples when they're starting to go off, when they're really not very good to eat raw anymore, you often get a very nice dried apple from that.
Right.
So
is that when they're going really soft?
Yeah, when they go really soft, they tend to dry better than when they're underripe, or better when they're normal ripeness.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's worth experimenting with different stages of ripeness.
I must admit, I did do some of the Lord Lambton when they were going a bit soft like that.
Yeah.
And they seem to be alright. The only problem was actually getting them cut up because it was so soft.
Yeah, yeah, that can be tricky.
Yeah.
What we tend to do here is we eat the apples by variety, and as soon as they start to go over the hill with flavour, then we say, okay, we won't eat any more of those, we'll dry the rest, and then we go on to the next variety, and we proceed like that through the winter.
Okay. So we've got 3 on here, Nigel.
Yeah, now there are actually 2 sorts here. This one, they're rootstock apples.
Okay.
This is a rootstock apple known as M26. And if you have an apple tree grafted onto M26 and the graft dies, and you get a new shoot coming from the root, you'll get apples like this.
Right. Now, a lot of the viewers won't understand what this M26...
Oh, will they understand what rootstock means, do you think? Oh, well, when you make an apple tree, or when you buy an apple tree, you'll notice that on the stem, about 6 inches from the ground, you'll see that there is a little bulge. And that's where the apple tree is grafted together. And an apple tree consists of a rootstock, which supplies the roots, and it's actually a sort of apple, as you can see. It's actually an apple variety. And then on the top of that is grafted the variety that you actually want to taste. And all commercial apple trees are made like that. So there's nothing natural about a commercial apple tree. It's not from a pip. It's actually made from 2 separate trees.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I've heard this rootstock mentioned many a time, but I didn't really understand it.
Okay, well, let's just taste this one. Now, some rootstock apples are good and some are less good. This is M26, which gives you a miniature apple tree if you graft onto it.
Yeah.
Ugh, I don't like that very much. Ugh, strange, isn't it?
It is strange.
It's sweet and bitter.
Well, first when I put it in my mouth, I thought, oh, it didn't taste too bad, this one. Then I took one in.
It's like a bitter, sweet cider apple.
Yeah, it's got a weird taste though.
Yeah, very weird. It's sweet.
It's a bit like, I don't know what, it's that we mentioned in the previous videos where it's got that funny texture.
Oh yes, it's woolly, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that might be okay for putting it as an ingredient into cider, because you need tannin in a cider, and there's lots of tannin in that. But as for an eating apple, it's hopeless. Now, the next variety we've got is, well, these are actually the same variety. This one is from my brother's tree, and this is from mine, which gets less sunshine. And you can see they don't look very similar, but they're both from a rootstock known as MM106. Let's taste the green one first, because that's likely to be more sour, and then we'll taste the one that's a bit riper. But MM106 has got good parentage. One of its parents is an American apple known as Northern Spy.
Right, just a quick question, Nigel. With sourness, is one of the reasons for that because they've not got enough sunshine?
Yeah,
is it
it can be.
Strawberries,
yes.
That is often the case. If you got them in a shaded spot, then they can lack the sweetness.
Yes, if you've got a shady spot, you have less sugar, and I think you get increased acid. And even if you don't get increased acid, if there's less sugar, the acid is more noticeable.
Mm.
That's pretty tasty, isn't it?
Mm.
Slightly sour though. Slightly sour.
Yeah. Very crisp.
Yeah. Good texture that is. It's a decent apple. Right, let's taste the riper one.
You might see me moving my tongue around a lot, folks. I broke a tooth at dinner time.
I think this might even be overripe. It's still slightly tart, but I quite like that.
It's far better than the other.
It is.
Mm.
So not a bad eating apple at all. Not bad at all. And quite a few people have those apples in their garden because if they have a tree where the graft has failed, and that's quite common, fairly frequently the graft will take over, and these are a perfectly respectable cooking apple early in the season while they're still green, and quite a decent eating apple after that. Okay, so that's rootstocks.
Okay.
Next one is winter banana. This was given to me by a person on the allotment. So I haven't grown this one, so I'm not sure how good the taste is going to be. It's actually an apple which was raised in America, but it was quite common in England, and you still come across trees sometimes, but it's not been seen much in England for a good while. And one of the problems, I looked this apple up before we did this tasting, one of the problems is if you don't have enough sun it doesn't ripen very well, and I think that's happened to this one.
Yeah, it's not very nice.
Yeah, it's not really a very good flavour, and it feels sort of underripe. So there's not been enough sunshine. Let's throw
I
that
bet
away.
more than you, but
Yeah, so not very good, but some years it is okay. Some years it's alright. Right, the fourth one is a very peculiar apple known as Spencer Seedless. And this is an apple which, the peculiarity of it is, it doesn't need bees to form any fruit. You don't need to pollinate it. And seedless means it has no pips. Most apples don't have any seeds in.
yeah.
This has been known for about 100 years. I think it was developed in Wisconsin, but I'm going to do a little bit of research on this because it's worth us doing a feature on this later. What does it taste like? Is it any good?
Well, it's better than the others so far.
Oh, it's a bit flat though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got something.
I wouldn't choose that as an eater.
No,
No.
but I won't eat any of these.
No. There's not much acid, it's a little bit woolly, and there's not much sugar either. But the reason I've got this apple is that it has one quality that's quite useful. It has a very, very tiny core, usually with no seeds in it. And so it's quite useful for breeding new varieties where the core is small. But the taste of that on its own this year isn't very good. Last year we had a few and they were a bit better. So that's disappointing this year. Right, let's try the next one, which is Crimson Gold.
Which one we?
Let's try this. This is slightly riper, but we can try the other one if
Okay.
this isn't so good. Crimson Gold. You can see it browns. I actually halved this apple earlier. So we've got some fresh fruit by exposing it. There we are.
Okay.
This is another of Albert Etter's varieties.
That's quite nice.
And that's okay. Yeah, slightly soft, but quite a good flavour,
Yeah.
and a little bit spicy. Shall we try the other one?
Yeah.
Just see if it's any better. It's been a strange year for some of the apple varieties. Some have ripened ever so well, and some have not so good this year. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, the earlies tended to ripen slightly late, and the late apples have tended to ripen a bit too fast.
Just the same as
About
the
the same,
first
isn't
one,
it? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so fairly ordinary. In fact, I don't think I would rate that one at the moment as high as an ordinary supermarket apple, to be quite honest.
No.
No, not too good.
No.
Right, what have we got now? West Virginia Beauty. Now this is a very late winter eating apple.
Okay.
Slightly greenish inside. That hasn't ripened properly, has it? It's not sweet enough.
No.
I can't say I like that one very much either
No.
this year.
We're not doing too good this week,
no,
are we?
we're not. These are all, as I say, very late ripening apples. It looks like the late ripening season hasn't been so good. Right, this one is Webster Pinkmeat.
That looks very much like a supermarket.
Yeah,
apple,
it's a red fleshed one, this is.
Oh yeah.
Slightly pink inside. Very soft. And slightly bitter.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Don't like that either. No. I think I'll give that the thumbs down.
Where are these going to go then, Nigel? In the pie?
In a pie, off for drying, I think. The funny thing is that when we do tastings next year, we may well find that the earlies are all not so good, and these are actually better.
Yeah.
You see, this is the peculiar thing about apples. They're not the same one year to the next. Right, this one is a Bramley, and Bramleys usually have a period of about a month where you can use them as eating apples. They tend to turn, the acid drops and the sugar levels increase. There's a fair bit of sugar in that, that's not bad.
No.
Yeah, it's passable eating apple.
It beats most of these, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Lots of juice in it as well, that's quite pleasant. And Bramley is from Nottinghamshire. The original tree, I believe, is still alive in Southall, and it's 200 and something years old, just over 200 years old. Right, we have a Leicestershire apple next. This is an apple that we discovered.
Which one do you want?
Let's take one with a bit of red on it.
Yeah.
We discovered this one in a hedgerow near High Cross in Leicestershire. A late winter keeping apple, fairly tart, and some years it's really good for drying. Quite a strong flavour, that.
It's quite crispy and it's got a tough skin.
Yes, it has. But when you dry the apples, you take that off.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And you get a nice flavour.
Yeah.
That's a decent flavour, that one. Skin a bit tough, as Julie says. And the apples for this one stay on the tree until about end of last week in December most years, occasionally the first week or the second week in January.
Did you have much problem with the wind? We had some 80-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, we did. It blew an awful lot of apples off.
Yeah.
The late winter ones, they stayed on. This one here is another cooking apple known as Martin's Custard. This is an apple which we rescued from Coatesbatch Hall in Leicestershire, and these are from our trees. It's a cooker which tastes a little bit like a Bramley, but it's earlier, and I'm hoping this is also good enough now to eat as an eater. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's good.
That is good. Quite sweet. A little bit like a supermarket apple, but this flavour is a bit weaker. But nice and crunchy.
It's the best one out of all of them so far.
Yeah, Martin's Custard. Yeah, that's nice. Right, well, two more to do. This apple here is one we found outside Burford in a hedgerow in Oxfordshire. We call it Burford Red. As you can see, it's predominantly red in colour. It's another very late winter apple, very similar to Allen's Everlasting, which we did in a previous tasting. It's slightly green inside, and it's usually fairly decent eating.
Yeah.
It's not quite ready yet.
No.
What do you reckon to that one? Not as good as the last one, is it?
No.
I think I'll perhaps give that 6 out of 10, possibly 7, but it'll get a bit sweeter.
No.
And finally, we've got an apple that Alison discovered. That's my wife. About a month ago, outside Potter's Marston in Leicestershire, and you can see it was in a hedgerow, and you can see it's very red, and it's quite sweet. We are looking into this apple to see if it's any use. There you go.
Thank you. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's quite a pretty appearance.
It's the best one today.
That's good, isn't it? Like that. Yeah, nice and sweet. It tastes a little bit like a Cox, and I suspect it might be a seedling from a Cox pip. A little bit more. Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah.
Well, I think most of them would have got the hooter this time, wouldn't they?
They would have, yeah.
Rather than thumbs up. But we found about 4 or 5 nice ones. But as I say, from year to year it changes, and we might find next year that this selection is better than, say, the one that we did last time.
Yeah, because it depends on the weather, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It all depends on the weather.
If we, what happens if we get lovely hot spring, summer, into the autumn?
What happens is you tend to get sweet apples which won't keep very well.
Okay.
Because if they're significantly warmer than they should be all through the summer, it speeds up all the chemical reactions. And then when you get them into the cellar or your cold room to store them for the winter, the winter keeping apples, you find that everything is accelerated.
Yeah.
And they just won't keep, and you get to Christmas and they all start to go mouldy or rotten.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is where a dryer comes in handy.
Yeah, so a dryer is really good for that, because you won't actually waste them.
You can get your vitamins all through the winter, can't you?
Yeah. You're probably aware if you cook an apple, all the vitamin C disappears.
Yeah.
But I think, I've not tested this, but I think if you dry an apple, the vitamin C all stays in. It will be interesting to do the chemistry just to see. Yeah.
Because you have been running tests, haven't you, on apples?
Yeah,
acid tests.
Yes, I've done lots of vitamin C testing recently, and Bramley is quite a good apple for vitamin C. Around about 8 to 10 milligrams of vitamin C per 100 grams of apple. It's quite a high value when it's raw. Cook it though, and the vitamin C almost entirely vanishes. And MM106 is a very high one as well. That's got about twice the vitamin C of Bramley. None of the others here are particularly high. The little Potter's Marston apple is about 2.5 on the same scale. But there are lots of other things in these apples, apart from vitamin C, that make them very healthy indeed. It's not just a question of vitamin C.
So I suppose when you go and buy your apple drinks and that from the supermarket, that's how they can vary so much with the vitamin
Well, that's right,
quantity.
yeah.
Depends on what apples they're using.
Well, it does, yeah. If you get apple juice, say, made with, let's think. Well, Bramley juice is going to be fairly high in vitamin C, but if you have something like Cox, that will have less than half the amount of vitamin C that you have with the Bramley, unless the manufacturer has actually added some vitamin C during the
And
manufacturing
how
process.
would they do that?
Well, they just add it as a chemical. You
Chemical.
can buy
Yeah,
vitamin C. And
like
you just,
your tablets, you know.
yeah, and it actually helps the juice to stop it going brown.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because when it goes brown, it's actually combining with oxygen from the air.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything else to say before we finish, Nigel?
We might be doing a later tasting with just 1 or 2 varieties round about Christmas or New Year, just to see how the late winter keepers, how the taste is performing this year, just for interest. But it will only be a restricted number of varieties because not many of them will keep that long.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's it
Okay.
really.
Okay. Thanks for that, Nigel.
Okay.
Hope you enjoyed the video, folks. Just want to thank all the new subscribers and those who are commenting on the videos. There seem to be a lot of new faces appearing. Much appreciated, and hope you enjoy the future ones. Bye for now.
Yeah, bye for now.